So I've traded for a newer, much less sporty but much more luxurious truck, and a couple of things that I miss actually from the old truck as compared to the new one, and one of those is right here. The subwoofer that was installed in the other truck when I bought it used, and it had it in there. This truck didn't have it, so I've gone ahead and ordered one, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to install it in this vehicle in this video. Yeah, I know I should have cleaned the truck, but this is a work truck. First things first, pop the hood, and then let's move on around here to the front of the vehicle. First thing they want me to do is to disconnect the battery. Looks like a 10mm socket for this truck. Mileage may vary. Next, you're going to want to find this wire. It has a place for a fuse. It'll have this little circle on the end of it, and these are going to pass through your firewall into the cab of the vehicle while this part stays outside of the vehicle. Now the first thing we got to do is cut off this little fitting. We're going to need it later once we've passed these wires through. Now with that removed, you're going to want to fold one of these back like this as you tape this to the wire. That's going to be needed for the clearance. And here I've taped it up. I used a piece of clothes hanger wire. I just didn't have a metal fish tape. All I had were fiberglass ones, and they're a little bit too big. Now you'll note here under the tape, the one wire is folded back and the other two are forward. You'll also notice that I've covered all of the little metal clips at the end. They've all been covered with the tape, and that is for their protection. Got a little bit of oil off the dipstick, maybe a drop, and just spread it along that little bit of tape. And now we're ready to go into the grommet, which is located on the passenger side behind the battery, way down here where it's hard to see. And once you've managed to finally push the other end of this wire through, you're going to come around here to the passenger side and kind of go hunting. This is not going to be easy to see. Before we even get under there, we need to pull this down. This thing just kind of pulls off. And with that little thing removed, you're going to come way back here, and you're actually looking on the other side of this box. Up above it, there is another control box. Look around, your wire is in there. It's just going to be hard to see. Actually, I think I'm looking at it right there. In fact, yeah, I can see the end of that clothes hanger wire sticking out right there. Reach up there with some pliers, grab it, and pull it on through. We can get rid of our fish wire and get ready to put our clip onto this portion. Doesn't matter which one goes where. They are all sourced from 12 volts. I could have probably taken the time to clean all that adhesive off, but the connection is going to be made on the inside of this thing and not on the outside, so it honestly doesn't matter all that much. Okay, so I have removed this little cover from the top of the battery. Couldn't do it one-handed. And we're going to grab this very first stud here. This is a 13mm socket, and we're going to zip that off of there. Once I come back with a deep well. Nope, I got it. You may need a deep well here. It's important to not have the fuse installed at this time. Make sure you don't have the fuse installed at this time. You're supposed to torque this thing back down to 42 inch-pounds. I don't know where my torque wrench is, but I will tell you right now, didn't take that much. Now that mattered about the fuse so much because in this next step, we are reconnecting our battery. Woo! See some arc in there. We needed that battery because we have to raise the passenger seat to its full height. With the seat all the way up, we're going to need to remove this panel as well as this panel. Alright, so with the panel, actually that was just one panel, and with it removed, find the large wire that has these three ends on it. We're about to use this ground wire and this guy right here. The ground wire we're going to connect here, and for this guy here it is simply going to just plug in to the wire that we pushed through the firewall and put the clip on the end. This is for the Bose system, by the way. I don't have the non-Bose, so what I'm going to be showing you applies to my truck, which is Bose equipped. You have to remove a little bit of the sheathing here very carefully. These are some extremely delicate wires in here, and you can do some very, very rapid harm by mistake if you're not careful. And we are looking for a yellow and black twisted pair. And now we're going to find this wiring setup here that came in your kit. This is going to allow us to tap into the wires without actually cutting them. So these things clamp on. So you'll notice right here at my finger, there is a little clamp that clips over the wire, and it cuts the insulation and makes contact. And then when you close this, you're able to plug a stake-on fitting into this connection. Alright, we got them clamped in, and I'm just kind of showing you what the back of that little clip looks like as best I can once it's bitten down fully. And you're going to plug in up here on these ends. Now, for this wire here, the green is going to go into the wire that was solid yellow, and the brown is going to go into the wire that was yellow and black. And once that connection is made, you're going to simply plug in the other end to the remaining receptacle on your big wire. Alright, so next we're going to need to remove this tray, and we're going to do that with 4 7mm bolts. GM and their stupid 7mm bolts. Don't know what's up with that. Alright, so we've removed this cover. I have routed the wire underneath and secured it, and then we have placed the cover back in place, and we're actually going to leave it out for now. We're going to come back here to the back seat where we're going to have to remove this tray, this jack, and the tools for the jack as well. This will come out with a 10mm socket. Needs to be a deep well. Alright, so we've removed the jack, we've removed the tool bag for the jack, and we've removed the tray, and now it's time to move to the driver's side. At the driver's side door, remove this bolt right here. It's going to be an 18mm. Back to the bolt we just removed. We're going to measure over 3 inches from that 18mm center. Then we're going to measure from there down to the 5-inch mark. Okay, and then we're going to cut from 5 inches up to 3 inches, and then we're going to find the 4-inch mark and cut over about 1 inch. These don't have to be super precise, so don't worry too much about it. Just know that you're going to have to cut your carpet here. And with this one cut, we're going to move straight over here, and we're going to measure 4 inches down, okay, about right here, and then we're going to measure 3 inches across right here, and then from the center, so 1.5 inches, we're going to cut up 1 inch and across 3 inches right here. And we've made it back to the passenger side. I want to pull this panel straight up, get that out of the way. We're going to need to route a wire. Then we're going to come over here, and this panel is going to need to come up. You can lift this straight up and it should pop right out, just like that. And you should be able to fish your wire under this, and you don't necessarily have to fight too hard to get it under this, because we're actually going to route along the carpet and back in here. Alright, just to recap that wire route, we did remove this and place the wire under here. I just kind of scooted the wire under here. It was pretty easy, didn't have to take out any bolts. Walking on back to the rear of the passenger side, the wire is simply routed along here, and that's because it makes a gradual turn from here. It kind of goes up and behind this bracket here, where it also passes. You can see it kind of way back there. Okay, so it passes behind this center bolt and all the way over to here, where the primary end of the plug sticks out here. There is another end of the plug that sticks out here, and there was a third plug that the instructions say simply to just coil up and hide behind the seat somewhere. It is unused. Alright, so stopping with the actual speaker install for just a moment, I now want to install this base level adjustment knob that I got from Kicker. I'll put the part number in the description. I don't want to use this, so these are designed to be mounted something like this, or you know, some variation of this and screwed in, and I don't want to do that. What I want to do is actually just have the knob protruding through for as much of an OEM appearance as is possible. Now, ideally, I would like that here, somewhere immediately to the right of the steering wheel, on somewhat of a similar plane to where these heads-up display buttons are at. But that's not accessible. This is accessible, so I'm going to end up putting my knob there. And we're going to do that by simply, I don't know if I can do this one-handed or not. Yeah! And then this little bolt will unscrew, and I can get the actual controller and screw that to the dash. If I screw this up, this is going to be expensive. Oh, there we go. And there's the hole that we just drilled. That's as good as I can do on the Focus. We're going to see if the knob will push through there without having to enlarge the hole on that second layer. Hopefully not. Now, I was afraid of this, and that second layer that I hit is just a little too far away from the layer you can see to allow that shaft to go through and be screwed in. So we're going to try to bore away only the inner layer with this Forstner bit. I think to be a little more precise, I'm going to pull this panel off. This panel here just simply pulled away. It gives you access to the fuse block, and here are your spare fuses in case you needed some proof. Here is a 7mm bolt, and I'm hoping that once I remove that bolt, this panel just comes off without issue. I'll let you know in a second. Yeah, more or less. Pulled this panel, pulled the 7mm screw from wherever, right here. This panel wouldn't quite come off, so I had to pull this panel, which it just pulled right out. And it was a little tricky getting it out from here, but it did come out. So now, let's bore this hole. Trip to the car wash tomorrow. Alright, trying to get a good angle. That actually wasn't too bad. And here's the knob. It's hard to get a good angle. That'll be nice and easy to reach while driving. There is a little detent in it so you can feel. I don't see any reason to label or anything. Maybe I'll put it there in case I ever trade the truck, that this is for bass boost or something. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, the knob is in. Now we got to route the control wire for the knob back to the amplifier. You don't want to run this wire on the same side as your power wire. Now this wire is just going to look like a headphone jack, and they give you way more than you need, so you're going to end up having to do a little cable management here, but this is a much easier wire to feed, so I'm good with it. Alright, so we've gone from the knob, we've gone under the dash, down under these pieces here, just like we did on the passenger side, all the way back. We did kind of hop through right here. There's one little spot where it's kind of visible. Anyway, we came out this hole here, and we are now ready to proceed to the next step. And here is the amp. We're going to pull that out with 4 screws. Here's a rubber plug that's going to hide our dip switches. Now we have 2 and 3 that are off. Now I'm told to leave it as is if you're not going to use the kicker bass adjusting knob, but if you are, to go ahead and to push them all into the on position. Okay, and this is the last time that I will see the actual speaker, so let's get a good look at that thing. What a great looking speaker that is. Looks like a drop of water or two blew in on it. We're going to roll it over, and when we do, we're going to be ready to plug it up. Obviously that plug will go here. This plug, this white plug, will go here, and the plug that we just routed from the bass knob will go here. Alright, I put the 18mm bolt back in, and I'm actually pretty shocked that this didn't come with any sort of fastener to hold that down, but it didn't. Maybe it's supposed to. My box didn't have that. If it does, you can see here that we've plugged in this one, and it's kind of hard to see, but we've also made both of our connections down here. And just simply because I don't have anything to do it with right now, we're gonna reconnect this with our jack tools. Alright, and on this side, simply just because I could, I went ahead and trimmed this out to fit. It's not perfect, but it will hold some things under the seat that I want to keep from drifting forward every time I stop. And of course, our 10mm bolts will secure that back down. Okay, jack back in place, jack tools back in place, speaker installed and plugged in. Let's cover up our wires. Okay, we are down to the wire. I will do some cable management when the sun's out. It's gotten dark on me. Now the only thing left to do is to add this 25 amp fuse. Hopefully nothing bad happens. And boom, fuse is in place. Let's go see what it sounds like. And what it actually sounded like was a big bag of disappointment. And you know, I turned the thing on. I knew I had power. I knew I had followed every step of the way. You know, I've read those instructions very thoroughly, and I knew them very well without even having to reference the pages. Even still, I had the pages in the vehicle with me as we went. So I was pretty surprised when I turned the system on, and I honestly couldn't even tell that the speaker was doing anything. Now, if you were listening into some wind that you could hear in the background, that was actually the outer edges of Hurricane Beryl as it came past. And so, you know, the weather was moving in, it's starting to rain. I decided to abandon the project till the next day to try to figure out what the problem was. Turns out it was a pretty easy mistake to find and a pretty easy mistake to make. And that was in the step where I was having you plug in the stake-on connectors at the speaker taps. One of those little stake-on blades had missed the slot and it slid on the outside of that connection. And so there was no speaker input. Once I put the speaker input, we went from not being able to tell anything was there at all because it wasn't, to rattling the windows. Now, I have heard people say that this speaker didn't do well, that they felt like it didn't do anything for them. I would encourage you to go back and consider checking to make sure you got that connection made. The other thing that I would tell you is that the bass knob really seemed to make a big difference as well. If you take the bass knob and have it unplugged during the testing, some songs hit really well. Some songs you can kind of tell it's there, and other songs it didn't seem to do anything at all. So the ability to adjust on the fly with that knob made all the difference in the world as far as I am concerned. There are probably still people who would listen to that system at what I would call, you know, its best and say, well, that's just not good enough for me. If you're trying to have it so that your neighbors 3 miles away can hear your favorite song, this isn't the system for you. But if you want really good audio quality while you're in your vehicle that's not so loud as it disturbs everyone around you, then this is a good option for you. And if you want something that's pretty easy to do, I'm going to go ahead and put this one in easy for most people. I'm going to call it a moderate difficulty for an absolute beginner. But if you've got any experience with any kind of wiring at all, I'm going to call this one easy. The hardest part was pushing the wire through the firewall, and that just simply wasn't all that difficult. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't all that difficult. So if you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. If you have any ideas for some upcoming videos, let me know in the comments too, because we are about to get back into doing some more video production. As far as the white Trans Am Sally goes, we have had to shelve that project for a little while. We probably are about a year from jumping back on that car. And that's going to come down to the fact that I have left a job where I had a little bit of spare time seasonally to now I own a business, and spare time is just not something that I have a lot of right now. But as the business grows, I am finding more and more spare time. So all is not lost. We've not completely abandoned that project, but it is on the shelf for now. So until next time, this is Jason with Saving Sally, and I hope to see you on the next video.